What is going on at Colorado? Should you be concerned? And is Deion the right guy for the job? We're going to talk about a lot of this today, and I'm hopefully going to reassure Colorado fans that even though you've had 51 portal exits and it continues to climb during this season for Deion Sanders, which is pretty much going to be a purge season, that Colorado is going in the right direction, and next season might not be as bad as you think it will. But before we dive into it, please go ahead and hit that like and the subscribe button. Let me know what you all are thinking down in the comments below. Do you think Deion Sanders is going to be able to turn it around? Because listen, Coach Prime is going to be able to turn this program around because he's already been doing it in the transfer portal. So let's start off with some numbers here because I went and I calculated a bunch of this up. He had 41 transfer portal exits since this spring transfer portal window has opened. 41. He's had 51 total. 51 total enter the transfer portal. That's a huge turnover on this team. Now, I want to reassure Colorado fans here about what he's bringing in from the portal. 7 players from Jackson State have came to the University of Colorado. 4 of those 7 are on offense. One of those is your quarterback, who is running a very familiar system like what he was doing at Jackson State. And I think Coach Prime is doing this on purpose. There's a reason why he brought in Sean Lewis, because he knows what kind of offense Sean Lewis runs, and he knows if he was going to overturn the roster the way that he did, he had to keep the offense simple. And even though Sean Lewis's offense is simple, look at what it did to Georgia. Look at what it did to Oklahoma. It's a fast offense. And in Colorado, where you have the elevation change, that fast offense could work to your advantage when you have people come into your home. 3 of those players from Jackson State are on defense. One of them, you could argue, in Travis Hunter, is your best defensive player. And I say this because I get it. Travis Hunter will play some wide receiver, but you don't need Travis Hunter to play wide receiver for you. You need Travis Hunter to focus on the defensive side of the ball and be a leader on that defense for the Colorado Buffs, because you brought in 2 starting wide receivers from USF who people, colleges from all over the country wanted, big time programs, in Xavier Weaver and Jimmy Horn Jr., totaling for a total of 2,694 yards, 183 receptions, and 12 touchdowns. That's what you're getting from those 2. So if I'm Sean Lewis, yes, do I want Travis Hunter to come in some packages? 100%. Because it is probably going to throw the other team off a little bit. I do not want Travis Hunter being a primary wide receiver in my offense. I want Travis Hunter to focus on the defensive side of the ball, because that's where he can make the most impact for Colorado. And I've got 2 wide receivers and then a tight end in Traore, and I hope I said that last name right. I've always had a hard time pronouncing it. But I've got 3 guys there that if Shadeur Sanders could go in there and build a relationship, build some chemistry with, which he totally can do if they just put in some hard work throughout the summer and the fall, that your offense should be competent enough to be able to go out there and put up points on everybody else. Just being honest, because even looking at the offensive line, you bring in 2 guys from Sean Lewis's offense at Kent State who are familiar with the system. I think that's so important to note. You bring in 2 guys that are familiar. They're not, it's not different. Like you're not bringing in like a Yusuf from Florida. Like, these guys know what they're doing, so they can be leaders on the offense. And so I look at some of the other guys that you guys have brought in on the offensive line, like Tyler Brown from Jackson State. Cool. That's another guy who's in a familiar system, right? He should understand it. Savion Washington, he should be the leader there because, well, he's from Sean Lewis's offense, so he should be able to help anchor a lot of those guys. But that's what I'm saying. This offensive line with Jack Bailey and Savion Washington, it should be good enough to protect Shadeur Sanders. And then, you're going to have guys come in through your recruit through your commits in 2023, like Isaiah Jada from Snow College, the JUCO offensive tackle. And we know offensive tackles are going to be hard to come by. If you're Sean Lewis, you're strategically going to go pull guys out of the transfer portal that know your system, and you're going to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to protect Shadeur Sanders and also whoever's running the ball, because we know that you bring in a guy like Dylan Edwards, a top 200 player, top 175 player in the country at the running back position from Derby, Kansas. But you've also got guys like Cavassier Smoke from Kentucky. Now, if you notice, Coach Prime is also bringing in guys that are from other Power 5 conferences, and not just other Power 5 conferences, some of the best Power 5 conferences. So when I look at the offense for Colorado, yes, there is a huge amount of transfer portal exits. But what they have brought in to stabilize the offense, that should be good enough to be able to go put up some points. And if you're able to go out there and score 35, 40 points a game, that might be enough to go out there and win probably 3 or 4 games. Because at some point, you're going to start outscoring your opponents. Now, on defense, he brought in 7 players from Power 5 schools on the defense. Most notably, I think one of the best ones they've brought in is Jordan Dominic, the senior from Arkansas, who's also spent time at Georgia Tech, 6'3", 250 pounds on the edge, who in his career and last year totaled up 34 total tackles, 19 solos, 7.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. And in the season before that, he had 38 total tackles, 18 solos, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. And I can continue because in 2020, in a shortened year, had 35 total tackles, 20 solos, 4 sacks. What's the theme here, guys? The theme here is this is a guy that knows how to get to the quarterback. And you know what? A senior, a guy that can come in and be an anchor for this defense, a guy that can be a leader. So, yeah, you might be having to pull in some more transfer portal guys, which we'll get into here in a minute, but the team should be fine because you've got guys like him and Taylor Upshaw or I'm even going to put Travis Hunter in there, even though he's not a senior or a junior, because Travis Hunter's been in Deion's system. He's been in Coach Prime's system. He knows how to be a leader. He should be able to vocalize his voice a little bit more. And so I look at what they're bringing in Miles Slusher, a guy at safety that could be a lockdown and really try to help lock down that defensive backfield. Demoy Kennedy and Bentley are both guys that maybe haven't had a lot of production at their schools, but are talented, and a lot of big-time schools wanted them. And then, of course, I talked about Taylor Upshaw. Taylor Upshaw, a guy from Michigan who, again, was wanted by numerous schools, even though he didn't have the flashiest numbers. Yeah, the defense didn't look the best during the spring game. But I promise you, if they really buckle down during the summer and the fall, you guys should be fine. You should be fine. So the question is, who does Colorado need to be able to go out there and get in the transfer portal? Well, there are names. There are names in the transfer portal. You definitely need to get some more guys on the offensive line. And there's an offensive tackle that just entered from Ohio State, and Ben Christman, who would be a great option. That's another great option. You could go to the SEC, not to the SEC, to the Big Ten, and take a cornerback like Braxton Clark, who is going to have 2 years of immediate eligibility there. Or I don't think you really need any skill players on the offensive side of the ball at this point, even though you have Alton McCaskill, who a lot of people believe is going to end up at the running back position for Colorado, which will be able to provide more depth there. But you could go out there and get I know there's been some Georgia guys hitting the portal. I'm trying to think. I'm totally blanking on their names. But you guys could go out there and get Caleb Burton. If you're truly needing more skill players on the offensive side of the ball, you could go out there and get a wide receiver from the Ohio State Buckeyes and Caleb Burton. And he's obviously got some talent because Brian Hartline's the one that recruited him there. And Brian Hartline evaluates and develops wide receiver talent like nobody else. It's unmatched. You could go out there and get an Antoine Powell at the edge position from Florida. You could go out there and get an Isaiah Ukwu from, well, I guess you could say he'd play edge or linebacker. He can really play either one for you. From James Madison, who, by the way, before you go, well, James Madison had one of the best defenses in the country all season and last season, for that matter. So don't just scoff at it because it's from there. But what I'm saying is there's a plethora of guys in the transfer portal that you guys could turn to. There really is. You got guys from Georgia hitting the portal. You guys got guys from Notre Dame hitting the portal. I mean, all you have to do is bring in talented guys that want to win, that you know are going to fit your system based off their tape, and just plug and play them. Like the guy I was talking about from Georgia, the cornerback, Marcus Washington. Maybe you bring in Marcus Washington to help provide depth there. Because guess what? I think Cormani and Travis Hunter at the cornerback positions is a great duo, but maybe you provide Cormani a little bit of a buffer in case some games you need some experienced depth there, and you can provide a Marcus Washington to help back him up. But ultimately, you provide that too high safety look in the Pac-12 with some of those quarterbacks, you're going to be successful. Because who knows? Caleb Williams, who has not had success with the too high safety look, might be an option. That might be what you want to play against him. And so looking at the schedule for next season for the University of Colorado, at TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State, at Oregon, USC, Arizona State, Stanford, UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, at Utah. There's still a realistic possibility for Colorado to go out here, get 3 to 4 wins, and really, I mean, increase the validity of this program for recruits to want to come here. Because I get it. You guys just had a decommitment from Juwan Johnson, which, you know, there's other things going on there that, you know, Colorado fans just need to accept. But if Colorado goes out there, even if they only win 3 or 4 games, it's not a unsuccessful season. What you're really looking for is, are these players going to, are these recruits going to see these players have significant success, like significant improvement? What kind of improvement is Coach Prime going to have on the team? Because Coach Prime has convinced us that he is exiting players from this program if they are not good enough to play on this team. That's pretty much what he's doing. He's cutting players from the program. And recruits are going to look at that and go, okay, if you're going to cut players from the program, then how are you going to develop that talent that you're retaining? Did you evaluate that talent correctly? And what's that product look like on the field? Are they playing hard for you even when you're losing? Because I'm not going to lie. As of right now, I do not see Colorado beating Oregon, USC, UCLA, Oregon State, Utah. I might be able to give you guys the Colorado State, Arizona State, Stanford, Arizona, Washington State. Those might be toss-ups for you guys. But at this point, TCU and Nebraska going to start out season 0-2. But as a Colorado fan, it might be okay. It might be time to simmer down expectations. We might have jumped on this Colorado and Deion Sanders will be successful too early. That's really what it might be. But guys, I want to hear from you. Because although we might not agree with Deion pretty much exclusively cutting players from this program, which he's not doing to everybody. Some of these guys are just taking opportunity and leaving. But we might not agree with the way that Deion handles things. But at the end of the day, if he's able to go out there and get this job done, who are we to judge him? Maybe he's doing something that, is a little unprecedented. It's not something we normally see. But if it works, maybe you start to see more coaches do this. Lincoln Riley came into USC. He turned the program around in 1 year. Not saying that's going to happen with Colorado because you don't have that kind of talent. You don't have a Caleb Williams who could potentially be a generational talent. You don't have those wide receivers and that running back room that they have. But We've seen guys come into programs and can turn them around in year 1 or year 2. It might take Coach Prime 2 or 3 years to really get this program rolling. But when I look at the recruiting rankings in 2022, 58, 2021, 65, and 2020 was, the best one so far, 36, 2019, 48, 2018, 53. Coach Prime is going to recruit a lot better than that. A lot better. And ultimately, you're going to see Colorado potentially have a slow, steady rise back to relevance in college football, especially now that Coach Prime's there. Because Coach Prime is going to demand everybody see the relevance in this program. So go ahead and jump down in the comments below, guys. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. I was probably a little too harsh in the last video, but that's the instant reaction, guys. That we have to have those instant reactions. And now that we're going to sit down, we're going to look at it, we're going to deep dive into the statistics. I don't think Colorado fans should panic yet. I think you guys will be fine. I think Coach Prime, Sean Lewis, Tim Brewster, Nick Williams, all of these guys who are great recruiters are going to be able to help Coach Prime turn this program around. It's not going to be easy, but I think it can be done. So jump in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Do you think Coach Prime is the guy to get the job done at Colorado?